Hello, hello. Let's do a very rare Saturday reads at the Shea residence here. The reason why I can do that, and I'm not actually at work because I usually work Tuesday to Saturday, is that I had to call in sick on Friday because delightful little niece came and visited, but unfortunately she wasn't feeling that hot. And then she got here, and she really wasn't feeling hot, and she was kind of coughing and just not feeling great and wanting to go home to see her mom again. But we got to enjoy the visit with her. But she did leave. She did end up leaving the sickness behind, which means I had to call into work sick. And because I work at a group home for individuals with developmental disabilities, that meant my manager said, "Yeah, you got to go and have a test." Well, you didn't have to have a test. You just got to play with Nova and have lots of fun. Yes, so that's what I did today. Actually, I booked that in, drove through, because I guess maybe because it's Vancouver Island and it's just super. It was just like drive up, drive down into kind of the ICBC, our insurance company, docking bay there. Gargle some salt water inside with inside the car with my mask on. Gargle, gargle, swish, 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 gargle, gargle, swish, swish, swish. Do that enough times, and then put it into a little thing, and then in 12 to 48 hours I'll get the results, and oh boy, I'll get to go back to work, which actually is good timing because past today, I'm it's my weekend. I'm off Sunday, Monday, so I'll be back at work. And I don't doubt that I'll be back at work. I'll be the most surprised if it turns out that what I have is COVID. Aja is definitely down sick. She's in bed at the moment. But both my mother-in-law and I are. Yeah, I've got a bit of a frog in my throat. My mother-in-law's got a bit of a frog in her throat and is just feeling kind of a little bit tired. So you'll color me surprised if I come back and suddenly go, oh my god, I have COVID, most likely. But this is the things of working with vulnerable individuals. You do not want to go in there. Even if I just had like a bad cold or something like that, I wouldn't want to spread that to the individuals, and really, really would not want to endanger anyone with potential COVID. So that's my interesting story for this week, as all the Omicron and all that stuff ramps up. But I'm pretty chill about it. It's more like, ooh, I need milk for make sure I meter out my milk for my tea, so I can, because I can't go out shopping until I get the results of the test, which, glory of technology, I will apparently get texted me with it from 12 to 48 hours. So I just gotta meter my milk, and this is resting on a chest freezer, so there's plenty of things around to munch on until then. So we're all good. So yes. So let's do the reads. I haven't done this for a little while, but I'm just we'll dispense with various things that have probably come and gone since it's done. I'm continuing with Michael Armstrong, Life and Adventures of Michael Armstrong, Factory Boy by Fanny Milton Trollope, Anthony Trollope's mother. It's continuing to go very. It's melodramatic, very heartfelt. Has some questionable things about it. There's a lot of strong equating with the treatment of of child labor, working children to death in this, with the slave trade, which had, when this book was written in the 1840s, had, I think, fairly recently been outlawed. Slavery had been outlawed within the British Empire. Still, obviously, lots of other things around there, but a lot of equating, which is like, that is a step too far. But that is continuing to go well. I was definitely looking for something light to read, and something that Ja had actually gotten. She has the Audible account in the house, and it doesn't show up there. The one of the things was Scott Sigler he is the author of the GFL books, and actually he kind of embarked on a rather interesting program of like, he's a commercial author. He's putting out a lot of different books in a lot of different series. The GFL, the Galactic Football League, science fiction kind of big series that is all structured around basically kind of sports stories about this football team, but it's a football team made out of aliens. I won't go into the whole thing, but it's kind of interesting because he, as an author, as a businessman, looked at the James Pattison model, where as far as he describes it, Pattison teams up with other authors, kind of comes up with a blueprint, a kind of there's Shira having a look through. It comes through with a kind of a blueprint of how with the story, like kind of the outline, and the author he teams with goes away, writes the book, and then perhaps James Pattison comes back in, or his team comes back in, and they edit that book and they make it into a James Pattison book, which is how he can crank out so many books at a time. And it's not like Scott Sigler is cranking out, has created a kind of a James Pattison factory, but he was sort of inspired by that to say, like, okay, I know. Trouble in paradise between the guppies. Not really trouble, but Theo likes to visit, and Shira's not always super happy to have little Havanese in her face. But so yeah, he does these novellas in between the main installments of the novel, which are co-written. And this one, The Stone Wolves, which is GFL 5.6, was published in this year in 2020. He did with J.C. Hutchins, which to say it's a novella is sort of underselling it. It's a full-size novel. I think it was 9 or 10 hours in audiobook. So basically a full-size novel. It had really ballooned out there. But it's all these like little side stories. And actually I would say with Stone Wolves, because it centers on Quentin Barnes's father. I won't go too far into it for fear of spoiling anyone who's just starting out and thing, but his actual biological father and his team gets centered on in this book. And actually, unlike the other GFL books, this is very much seems like this actually almost feels like a standalone in itself, in that the father is a captain of a ship and he has his own kind of team, and they all have their own specialities, and they have jobs to do. There's sort of a Firefly, heist kind of quality to the book, and each one of them has their own dark past. They're all on the run from the law and their past and all that in their own way. And it was just really entertaining book. And it is one of those things where I think if someone handed me the book and said it was just a Scott Sigler book, I wouldn't know the difference. And a part of that is that Scott Sigler is a commercial author. And I think the signature of his style is probably, it's got to do more with the pacing and the efficiency of the storytelling than it does to have, that there's great descriptive language. He writes really clean, propulsive prose that tells a good story, and because he's obviously so involved in the actual story, constructing the story that's going to be told by the other author, and probably kind of doing his own write of the book. I'm not quite sure, you'd have to hear an interview with him. It just comes off as a Scott Sigler book. Which isn't to say it might be interesting to then pick up a book by J.C. Hutchins and see if he writes books in a similar vein, and what does J.C. Hutchins get out of this collaboration. I guess that's between him and Scott Sigler, but yeah, I mean, that would be the thing that would get through, as fans of Scott Sigler would then check out this other author's books, so that would hopefully benefit that fellow. So maybe I should actually make a point of looking at it, but it's just one of these things of there's a lot of fiction, especially if it's literary fiction, we're looking at as this is the work of an artist, and it's an individual thing, and no one else could do this. This is why you come to this artist. But there's a lot of other storytelling which is much more collaborative. TV shows, movies, where it's a product of many people. Majority of the time, it's a product of many people. Or like in the thing of like a TV show, there's maybe one overarching vision, but then there's a whole bunch of writers beneath them that that produce the individual episodes that then get shaped, or decisions get made by the showrunner. Um, and TV has gotten to the point where it's gotten respected enough as an art form in itself. So it's interesting just to look at a book which it's a commercial book. It's telling an entertaining story, um, but that what the biases are, or what are the expectations of the author in a single individual thing. Which, I mean, that's the joy of a book, is that you can have that individual thing, and there isn't sort of the industrial cranking out of stuff necessity that most people would kill themselves. And I mean, there are writers who write everything for like a TV show, but most of those stories seem to end with a person dropping because of exhaustion. It's not something that's a sustainable model for the production of the stories. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting. I guess there's a bit of a series theme. I also picked up number 2 in the Matthew Shardlake series, Dark Fire, which it's probably a cover that looks really wonderful in person, but this is following, yes, Matthew Shardlake, who is in the time of King Henry VIII, where Shardlake, in the first novel, is very much a man of one of Thomas Cromwell's agents, as Cromwell is disestablishing the Church of England for Henry. Also, Cromwell's doing a lot of other stuff, but that's sort of what Matthew Shardlake, who is a hunchback lawyer, is doing, who is oftentimes very much cast as basically people judge him by his appearance. Like if you look in, if you have a deformity, what people will consider a deformity, well then that must mean you're also evil, and it's the Hunchback of Notre Dame that kind of thing. A story that I have not read, so I shouldn't probably go too into that. But people thought the Hunchback of Notre Dame was a evil monster as well. So that sort of thing. So this book takes place a while later. He is a bit more sort of on his own in this book, or at least at the start he is. Though Cromwell quickly attaches someone else to him, because there's this thing called the Dark Fire, or Greek Fire, which has come into play. It looks like it's flamethrower throwing out liquid fuel that would just burn, and burns even on water. And indeed, this was a historical thing that was used by I think the Byzantines had a whole system set up, but they were so secretive about it. It was such a state secret, and they kept all the different components separate. That the people who made the thing that the fuel were one component. The people who made the device that could actually fire it were another. The people who could actually operate the device were yet another. They segmented it up so much that they kept such a good secret that the secret was lost. And indeed, that's the thing that gets offered to Cromwell, who is not doing well at this point with Henry VIII. He is losing favor. He is on tenuous ground, which, because I've been reading, I was reading a biography of Thomas Cromwell and reading Hilary Mantel last year. I'm very well aware of all the, was it last year? It was probably the year before now, of all of Cromwell's woes and his dark, violent kind of ways as well. On all sides of the pro-Catholic and the rising, what was going to turn into Protestantism on the other side. But Cromwell's offered this new weapon, except that the people who are going to sell it turn up dead. So Cromwell pulls Shardlake, who's been trying to kind of distance himself. He's thinking about even getting out of London, pulls him back in, says, "You have to do this for me," and you do not say no to Cromwell. At the same time, there is a girl who has been accused of pushing kind of the golden boy son of this family that she's a relation of, that she's gone to because her parents have died, has pushing him down a well and killing him. But she refuses to talk about it. She refuses to speak. And a uncle has come in and asks Shardlake to try and figure out what the hell's going on there. And so these two stories kind of weave their way in between. And finally, I've been reading on audiobook, listening on audiobook to T.L. Huchu's The Library of the Dead, a 2020 novel set in a kind of a future Edinburgh, a future kind of post-apocalyptic, a soft apocalyptic Edinburgh, by this Zimbabwean author who actually now lives in Edinburgh as a certified podiatrist. It focuses on Ropa, who is this young girl. She's almost 15. Who is a ghost stalker, who basically delivers messages back and forth between the dead and the living for money. She ain't no running no charity here, and who has as her grandmother, her granny is from the sounds like she's probably from Zimbabwe directly. She's the audiobook, you have her definitely speaking in kind of a Zimbabwean accent, where Ropa has very much the Edinburgh accent, which I will not do or try to butcher here. And she also has a friend who works at a library, and I've just entered the part where she's getting introduced to this library, and indeed seems to immediately step right into it and get into it. So I'm really enjoying that, and I'm enjoying that the book. Maybe because I was listening to David Attenborough's book, A Life on Our Planet, recently. The thing of like, yeah, the roads are gone. Power is solar. Things are really fallen. I think there's been great crazes where people have scavenged all the metal they can find. You get this sense that this is a post-industrial collapse, post-environmental collapse world that they're struggling in, mixed with this kind of these magical elements of stuff with the afterlife and ghosts that most will go on, but some stick around because they have messages. And indeed, there's a particular ghost that's stuck around because this ghost is super concerned about her child who's gone missing. And we're soon getting all this stuff of many children who seem to have gone missing, or bad things have happened to. Yeah, so that's been an interesting book. T.L. Huchu, who is Tendi Huchu. So that's what I've been reading this week. That's what's been going on in the Shea household. I've got that little frog in my throat, but it's doing okay at the moment. Everybody is just taking it easy. Just taking it easy. Right, Shira? Oh, Shira. Okay, more videos later.